Thank you all. Thanks for coming out. Please be seated. Thanks for coming. The governor told me, he said, if you come over here to North Dakota, we might be able to get a few people around to discuss Social Security. I said, okay, I'll come. And look, Governor, looks like you got more than a few. I'm honored so many came out to hear what I think you're going to find to be an interesting discussion about a very important issue. It's an issue that relates to our children's future. It's an issue that will determine whether or not those of us in elective office have got the courage and the wisdom to solve problems now. And that's Social Security. But before I talk about that, I do want to thank our host, Joe Chapman and North Dakota State University for welcoming us here. I'm glad a lot of the college kids are here because we're talking about something that's going to affect your life. That's what we're here to talk about. And I want you to pay attention. Something I didn't necessarily do when I was in college. I know the Bison women's basketball team is playing pretty well. After all, undefeated. Congratulations. I want to thank the First Lady of North Dakota for being here. Mikey, welcome. Thanks for coming. I'm proud of you. Proud of the job you're doing. Governor Hovind's doing a fine job as well, and like me, he married well. I'm sorry Laura's not here. Yes. That's generally the reaction, which is like, why didn't you send her and you stay at home? I get it. But she is a unbelievably beautiful woman, great wife, terrific First Lady. I was proud that the governor was at the State of the Union address last night, and I was proud that he flew back from Washington with me, and I really enjoyed flying back as well with Senator Kent Conrad. I'm proud you're here, Senator. Thank you for coming. Enjoyed our visit. And Senator Conrad asked permission if he could bring a senator with him from another state. I said, fine, who is it? And he said, well, that'd be Senator Conrad Burge from Montana. I said, bring him on. Welcome, Senator. I'm glad you're here. After here, we're going to Montana. Then I'm going to Nebraska. Then I'm going to Arkansas. And then I'm going to Florida. See, I think it's important to get out amongst the people and talk about important issues, and that's what I'm doing. And Congressman Denny Rehberg is with us from Montana as well. Denny, thank you for joining us. Proud that you're here. Guess what we spent a lot of time talking about with the senator, both senators and the congressman and the governor? We spent time talking about beef. We spent time talking about the cattlemen and women of North Dakota and Montana to make sure people can make it. We spent time talking about rural health care to make sure that people could find health care in America. Let me tell you one thing we need to do to make sure people in rural America can find health care, and that's to do something about these junk lawsuits that are running good doctors out of practice. Lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit is running up the cost of your health care. And it's making it hard for people to find a good doctor. I've met too many women who are worried about their pregnancy because the OBGYN they had been using is no longer in practice. We have a problem. I used to think these problems could be solved at the state level, but I recognize that these frivolous lawsuits are running up the cost of medicine, and therefore they're affecting federal budgets. I believe the medical liability crisis is a national problem that requires a national solution, and Congress needs to get a good bill to my desk this year. We also spent some time talking about energy. We've been debating energy for 4 years in the United States Congress. Now's the time to quit debating and get something done, and that means good conservation. It means renewable sources of energy like biodiesel and ethanol. It means clean, safe nuclear power. It means an energy plan that will make us less dependent on foreign sources of energy. I'll tell you what's going to be a great day for a president when somebody comes in with the crop report and says that the amount of corn is up, and therefore we're less dependent on foreign sources of energy. I believe it's possible, and I believe it's a wise use of taxpayers' money to explore ways to develop energy here at home that's renewable, clean, and safe. I want to thank you, Lieutenant Governor Jack Dalrymple and Betsy, for being with us. Governor, thanks for coming. Betsy, I appreciate you being out at the airport. I want to thank the Attorney General for being here today. Mr. Attorney General, thanks for coming. I want to thank the leaders of the House and the Senate who have joined us. I appreciate my friend Ed Schaefer and Nancy, the former governor of North Dakota and former First Lady. We're both members of the Ex-Governors Club. Tired old guys, can't run anymore. But I fondly remember the Schaefers during our tenures as governors of our respective states. It's great to see you all. I met Fran Rickers today at the airport. She was out there and standing right there when I came off the airplane on Air Force One. Fran is a volunteer at the Veterans Center. And the reason I bring that up is, as I mentioned last night in the speech, one of the great values of America is compassion. And one of the great strengths of America is the fact that thousands of our citizens volunteer on a daily basis. It doesn't even require a federal law, by the way. They do it out of the goodness of their heart. They do it because they're answering a call to love a neighbor just like they would like to be loved themselves. If any of the youngsters are here are interested in how you can serve our country, find somebody whose heart needs healing, find somebody who's hungry, find somebody who's looking for shelter, and make that person's life better. You see, you can serve America and change our country one heart, one soul, one conscience at a time. Fran, I want to thank you for setting such a good example by volunteering your time at the Veterans Center. Before I get to Social Security, I do want to talk about how amazing these past couple of months have been in the history of our world. I want the youngsters here to think about what has happened in such a brief period of time. First, there were elections in Afghanistan. Now that's, it may... Are you from Afghanistan? From? You're from Iraq. Yeah, thank you. From Kurdistan? Thank you. Look at them with their... Okay, wait a minute. You got ahead of the story. You got me to Iraq before we even got out of Afghanistan. You see, Afghanistan used to be a training center, a safe haven for Al-Qaeda. That's where they plotted the attacks on America. So I set out a doctrine that said if you harbor a terrorist, you're equally as guilty as a terrorist. We enforce the doctrine to protect ourselves, and by doing so, we removed the Taliban from power. And when that happened, it gave the chance for the Afghan citizens to rise up and vote, and to develop a democracy. And it happened. Millions of people voted. There was a vote in Ukraine that elected a new president. There was a vote in the Palestinian territories that elected Abu Abbas as a leader. And then, as you know, last Sunday, I'm getting to you, the people of Iraq, when given a chance, went to the polls and said, we reject terrorism and we love freedom. That's what they said. And that matters. Let me tell you why it matters. It matters because free societies are peaceful societies. It matters because in the long run, as freedom spreads, our children and grandchildren will more likely grow up in a peaceful world. This good-hearted country of ours longs for peace. We will do everything to defend ourselves against the threats of this era. And as we do so, we will spread freedom. Because we know that freedom leads to peace. And that's what we want. The lessons that we should take away from what happened in the last 4 months is that deep within everybody's soul is the desire to be free. It doesn't matter where you're from or the nature of your religion. Freedom is universal. Freedom is God's gift to every single person in this world. And if given a chance, people will express their desire to be freedom and take great risks to do so, like you saw in Iraq. Last night there was a touching moment when the mom and the voter hugged each other. It was a sincere expression of compassion and appreciation by a woman whose dad had been, whose assassination had been ordered by Saddam Hussein, who now had finally been given a chance to vote. It was an indication to me, and I think our country, that the Iraqi people so appreciate the sacrifices, especially those by our military and the military families, in order to free them. These are historic times. We're living in historic times. Freedom, you're welcome. Thank you, sir. Nothing better than a little free speech to liven up the crowd, you know? Very well spoken. Got it. Got the message. These are historic times, and the United States of America will continue to lead with friends and allies by our side. I set a goal in my inaugural speech that said, over the generations, over time, the free world must work to end tyranny. If you believe that freedom is the Almighty's gift to every soul, it makes sense to assume the duty to work with others to spread freedom so every soul can be free. That's what I believe the role of America must be. That's the call of our generation. And in so doing, we'll leave a peaceful world behind for our children and grandchildren. Thank you for letting me share that with you. As you can tell, I'm upbeat about where we're headed. And so the subject at hand is Social Security. Now, Social Security worked. We're going to talk to a soul who will tell you how important Social Security is to her and her family. Not yet. Pretty soon. And it's been important and it's worked. But the problem is Social Security has changed dramatically since it was created. You see, when it was created, most people's life expectancy was, around 60 years old, I guess? And today, people are living longer. There was, in 1950, there were 16 workers, as this chart will show you, paying for every beneficiary. In other words, there's a lot of workers putting taxes in to pay for the benefits promised. And that made it easy to fund the system. Today, there are about 3.3 workers. When the college kids here get older, there's going to be 2 workers. The benefit structure has gone up over time. And so you've got fewer workers paying for more retirees who are living longer, greater benefits. And if you start kind of thinking about the math there, you begin to realize we got a problem. In other words, there's not enough money coming into the system to pay for the promises for all those who are retiring, like baby boomers like me. There's a bunch of us getting ready to retire. We're living longer. We've been promised greater benefits, and there's fewer people writing a check. In other words, the system has changed. Now, if you're retired or near retirement, you don't have a thing to worry about. The Social Security Trust is solvent. As I said last night, and I will continue to say, for those of you who've received your check or about to receive a check, not one thing will change. That's a fact. I fully understand that oftentimes when they discuss the Social Security issue, people try to scare you about it, saying, oh, if old George W. has his way, you're not going to get a dime. Well, that's not the way it's going to work. The truth of the matter is, you're going to get your checks if you're retired or near retirement. That's just a fact. The problem comes from younger folks. That's the problem. The math doesn't work. As a matter of fact, as you can see from this chart, starting in the year 2018, more money goes out of Social Security than comes in. Right now, it's the other way around. More money's coming in that's going out, but a bunch of baby boomers who are going to live longer and have been promised greater benefits are fixing to retire. And so the system goes into the red. And it goes into the red, that means negative. That means losing money. Quite dramatically, in the year 2027, it'll be $200 billion in the red. $200 billion for 1 year alone. And in 2032, it's like $300 billion. And in 2032, and in 2042, it's bust. Now, for people who've been elected, I guess that seems like a long time down the road. If you got a 2-year horizon, you're only thinking about 2 years, or 4 years in my case. But I believe the role of a president, and I believe the role of a Congress, is to confront problems and not pass them on to future generations. I believe that. It's a problem when you're $200 billion a year short. Now, what does that mean? It means you either have to run up taxes, cut benefits, cut programs, or borrow money. That's what it means, in big ways. And so I went to Congress last night and said, I see a problem. Some of them didn't see the problem, evidently. A lot of them do. A lot of really good people on both sides of the aisle recognize we have a problem. I'm going to spend the next couple of days going around the country explaining to people as clearly as I can the problem. Because I expect people in Congress, when they see a problem, to then come up with solutions. And so last night I said, all options are on the table except for running up payroll taxes. I said, everybody, all different ideas as to how to solve the problem are on the table. And that's important for members of Congress to hear. In other words, we're not going to play politics with the issue. We're going to say, if you've got a good idea, come forth with your idea. Because now is the time to put partisanship aside and focus on saving Social Security for young workers. I put out an idea last night that I think is important. It's a novel way of saying to young workers, we understand whose money we're spending, and two, we want you to be able to have more security in your retirement, and that is to allow younger workers to take some of their own payroll taxes and set it aside in what's called a personal retirement account. A personal retirement account that will earn a better rate of return than the current Social Security trust earns. A personal retirement account which you will call your own. A personal retirement account that can be only invested in conservative stocks and bonds. A conservative account that you can't withdraw all your money upon retirement, but it's your own account and it grows. And it supplements Social Security. In other words, you'll get a Social Security check, but you'll also be able to withdraw money from your own personal retirement account to supplement that money. And why it's a good deal for younger workers is because it compounds at a rate of interest faster than the money inside the Social Security trust. I mean, you start setting aside money at a young age, it grows over time. It's your money. It's money that you can decide to leave to whomever you want. It's money that the government can never take away. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea to make sure the Social Security beneficiaries of the future get as close to that which the government has guaranteed, as promised as possible. But it's a new idea to encourage ownership in our society. You know, federal employees have this under the Thrift Savings Plan, this kind of idea. If it's good enough for federal employees, it ought to be good enough for workers out there working every single day, it seems like to me. Now, I've heard all of the complaints, and you'll hear a lot more. You say, how this is going to ruin Social Security? Forget it. It's going to make it stronger. We're going to phase it in so that we can be more fiscally responsible with the budget. And I want to work with Congress on the idea. I mean, I think it makes sense to put out new ideas for an old and important system to make sure it works. And that's exactly what we are doing, and I did last night. I want the people, as I travel around this country, to know, one, there's a problem. Two, I'm willing to work with members of both parties to come up with a solution. And three, I've got an innovative idea as to how to benefit the younger workers in America. And I've got some people up here on the stage that we're going to discuss this issue with right now. Some of them know a lot more about it than I do. It's kind of a hard thing for me to admit. One of them, Jeffrey Brown. Why would I say that you know more about it than I do? Probably true, but besides the fact that it's true. Like, what do you do?
Well, you've just convinced me that you do know as much as I do.
I don't know.
I'm a professor of economics and finance at the University of Illinois.
Good, yeah. We won't hold that against you. Now, get started.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, you are absolutely right that Social Security faces very significant long-term problems that are essentially due to the demographic changes that we're seeing in the United States. Social Security is not designed to be a savings program. It's what we economists call a pay-as-you-go system. And what that means is that when today's workers are paying taxes into the program, most of that money is immediately going right out the door to write benefit checks to today's retirees and other beneficiaries. That kind of system can work very well in decades past when we had 16 workers per retiree. But as a result of that ratio coming down, it means that unless something else changes, it means that tax rates have to go up or benefits need to be cut in the future. Now, just to put these numbers into perspective, you know, back in 1950, if you wanted to pay $1 to a beneficiary, you only had to collect 6 or 7 cents from each worker. Today, you have to collect 30 cents. And by the time today's young people are retired, that's going to be up to 50 cents from each worker to pay that one retiree. So this is why, starting in just 13 years, the system is going to start bringing in less tax revenue than it needs to pay the benefits. This is why the trust fund is going to run out of money.
Well, it doesn't sound like a long-term problem to me. 13 years seems like a pretty short time to me. I mean, it's like right around the corner.
Well, that's right. And the key here is that we have to act soon, because if we act soon, then we can phase in any changes gradually. We can give people the opportunity to build up these accounts. If we wait until the trust fund runs out of money, there are no good choices left except to cut benefits or raise taxes at that point.
Yeah. See, I think it's pretty, I hope you're beginning to get a sense for the immediacy of the problem. Sometimes, again, I'm going to say this a lot over the next months. If you're receiving a Social Security check, you have no problem. That's important for people to hear loud and clear. I know there's some folks that are probably nervous when they hear the president talking about changing Social Security. I know that's the case. I've run for office twice to be the president. And people got nervous when I said we need to do something about Social Security. You have nothing to worry about. We're talking about younger workers who are coming up have got a lot to worry about because of baby boomers like me, not those who've already retired. It's the bulge of us who are fixing to retire. That's Texans for going to retire. What else do you know?
What would you like to know?
Well,
I mean, to me, this problem's a little bit like, you know, imagine that you're driving down the road in a car and your oil light comes on. You know, most of us know in the back of our mind that what we need to do is sort of pull off the road and fix the problem. Because if we don't, you know, we might get lucky and get a couple more miles down the road, but eventually the engine's going to lock up on you and you're going to have a really expensive problem on your hands. And this is what we face with Social Security. It's very important that we take the steps now in order to make the changes that we need to make the system permanently sustainable, as it's definitely not, as that picture over there clearly indicates.
yeah, you know, they told me, and tell me if I'm right on this, Jeff, that for every year we wait, the problem costs $600 billion more.
Yeah, that's right. This is the numbers that the Social Security actuaries have put out. And basically what's happening is every year we wait, another year of those surpluses is gone, and you know, more years of deficits lie ahead of us. So it's very important.
So do you have any, look, I mean, if you don't like them, go ahead and say it, but do you have any problems with the personal retirement accounts?
Absolutely not. They offer a...
I was hoping that'd be the answer. Good pick. See if you can explain them better than I can explain them. I mean, compounding rate of interest is an important concept when it comes to the growth of money.
Absolutely. I mean, just to give you an example, if you invested, say, just $1,000 a year from the time you're 22 years old until, say, age 62, if you only get, let's say, a 3% rate of return on that, you might have about $65,000 when you retire. If you're able to get a 7% rate of return, you'll have over $200,000 in retirement. So very small differences in the rate of return when you allow them to compound over time. This is what we call the miracle of compound interest. It has an amazing effect.
Right, and you know, I know some of you are saying, well, gosh, if I put my money into the stock market, what happens if the market goes down the year before I retire? There are instruments that are devised, that are available, will be available for younger workers when they get ready to retire to invest, to insure against a downturn in the market. In other words, it's a different kind of instrument. You still get a better rate than you would in the current trust, but it's a way to make sure that the money isn't lost all at once. But on the other hand, history shows that over any 17-year period of time, you don't lose money in the market on safe, conservative stocks and bonds. It is a fact of life. It is a way that our markets have worked in the past. And it's also important to know that when you have your own personal account, you can't withdraw all your money. In other words, there will be a withdrawal plan that will complement your Social Security check. These are all questions I know people are going to have, and I have the obligation to travel the country like I'm doing, answering as many of the questions as I possibly can answer. You did a fine job, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are you ready, Mary?
I'm ready.
Thanks for coming. Where do you live?
I live in Walcott, North Dakota.
Walcott. Yeah. A lot of your fellow townsmen are here today, it sounds like. Perhaps the whole town.
About 200 people.
200 people in
Yes.
Walcott? That's 3 times bigger than Crawford. I think. Anyway.
Can I please say something?
Yeah, you got the mic. Yes, ma'am.
I just want you to know what an honor it is to have you here today.
Well, thank you. Thank you all very much. I'm thrilled to be here, too.
And one more thing. You and Laura, or Mrs. Bush, have
Laura's
brought,
fine.
Okay. You have brought dignity and honor back to the White House. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay. Okay, Mary.
I'm
You've done a
sorry.
fine job of firing up the crowd.
We're running out of
No,
time.
no, we're not running out of time. I appreciate those kind words.
Okay.
You're here to discuss
Well,
Social Security.
Social Security. I'm very glad it's there intact. A few years ago, my 90-year-old mother had a stroke, and from the hospital, she went to the nursing home, but we decided to bring her home. And so that Social Security has really been a blessing to help us with her needs.
Right.
We really appreciate that. Now my husband, who is 64 and I'm 60, soon will be retiring. So we're glad that our Social Security is intact.
Right.
And then there's...
Let me stop there.
Okay.
See, it's very important that when Mary Bond hears us discussing the system is going bust in 2042, that she recognizes the system isn't going broke for her. She's fine. These guys right here in the front, yeah, you guys, not fine. You got a problem. Thanks for coming to listen, by the way. Now get back to the library. Anyway, what else did you want to say? Now, the reason Mary is here is again to make the point, and I don't believe we can make it enough as we discuss this issue, that somebody who says, gosh, the Social Security system is very important for me, recognizes that if you've retired or near retirement, you fall in the near retirement category. Pretty close.
Pretty close.
Well, have you retired yet?
No.
Then you're near retirement.
60.
No, I'm not asking your age. Wait a minute.
Well, Kevin said
I'm
I
smarter
look
than that to ask the age. How old are you? No, anyway.
60.
So you're going to say something else?
Well, I do have a concern because a few years ago, my sister-in-law passed away. We're the same age. And she was about 57. And she had worked all of her life. She had a gift shop. She was a realtor and several other jobs. She paid into Social Security all of her life. And then when she passed away, the Social Security was gone. It would be wonderful if she could will that to her husband or her kids. And her husband now is retired and has some health concerns, and he could use that money.
Well, it doesn't work that way. Now, what the personal retirement account would do was allow it to work that way. You see, we're beginning to change a portion of Social Security to not only be that which was in the current system, but as well as kind of a part of the system, but it's now a new owner. Right now, your money goes in and it flows directly out to somebody who's receiving benefits. The new way of looking at it is some of your money would go in and go out to paying benefits. Some of your money would stay in your own account, and that is that portion that you can pass on to whomever you want. If it's not spent in your retirement, you get to decide. After all, it's your money. It's a concept that many are becoming accustomed to in our country through private pension plans. Or federal employees are used to what's called the thrift savings plan. Same concept, conservative mix of investment vehicles, and to get a better rate of return than that which is being earned, in this case, inside the Social Security Trust. Certain rules that will prevent gouging by Wall Street, so that the fee structure is reasonable and fair, and withdrawal rules. Obviously, you don't want somebody to either one, invest their money in the racetrack or the lottery, and two, upon retirement, take it all out and take it to Vegas. As much as I don't want nothing against Vegas, except we don't want the retirement things all gambled away. We want retirement funds to be around for retirement purposes. And so the system that we're talking about would enable your sister-in-law to do that. Thanks for coming. You did a heck of a job.
Thank you.
You bet. Good job. All right. Tricia Traynor, welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Okay. You are married for how long?
3 months, almost 3 months, to
There
my
you go.
husband, Dan.
Where is he?
He is over to the right, waving
There he
his
is.
hand.
Fine-looking man. Attaboy, Dan.
Dan,
Interesting thing about Tricia is she is a...
major in the Air Force Reserve.
There you go. You been overseas yet?
Yes, Commander. I was in the Middle East for 6 months
Oh,
in
good.
2003 for Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Good. Thanks for serving.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Your nation is grateful, but not, and equally as grateful, the good folks from Iraq that are here today. Thanks for being there. So, tell me what's on your mind about Social Security.
My husband, Dan, and I
You're young.
are in our 30s.
Yeah, you fall in the category of those who should be worried about whether or not Congress and the President has got the will to act.
We'd like to make sure that the money we are investing in Social Security now will be there 30 years from now, 40 years from now.
Right. Well,
and
don't
into
look
the
at that
future.
chart. Whatever you do, don't look over your left shoulder and see how much money, because it's not going to be there. So, therefore, you're interested. Let me ask you something. So, you've heard about personal retirement accounts. Give me, just tell the folks here what you thought when you heard it. I mean, people need to kind of get a sense for how a soul such as yourself, educated person, obviously interested in the future, worried about your and Dan's life, think about a new concept for Social Security.
Mr. President, it gives us hope that somebody is willing to address the issue. It's too easy to just push it down the road, and it's better to prevent the crisis before the crisis takes place.
That's the first threshold issue. Thank you for saying that. You know what I found? Yeah. You want to come back in?
I want to come back in.
Okay.
When I started working as a young woman, everyone said, I don't think the Social Security is going to be there for you. It was always broke, so somebody had to fix it, but nobody ever did. Now we have somebody that's bold enough to step up to the plate.
There you go again.
And try
Okay,
to
wait,
fix
wait,
it.
You probably think I hired her, you know.
But we're looking, we're
Did
supporting.
you talk to my mother this morning?
No, I did not.
Okay. Look, here's the thing. The threshold question is whether there's a problem that needs to be solved. And if there is, then who can come up with solutions that work? And so thank you for saying that. It's in my nature to confront problems. And I really enjoyed giving the speech last night and trying to do the very best I could to kind of educate people, is to explain as rationally as possible why we have a problem. And the major is typical of many 30-year-old citizens around. In the course of 2 campaigns, I campaigned on this issue. Some people are saying, no, don't talk about the issue. You know, it's the third rail of American politics. If you touch it, you know, you become politically electrocuted. I believe that the whole issue has shifted over time. Once older citizens are assured they're going to get their check, and I assure you, you're going to get your check, that younger workers will have a voice in deciding how this issue turns out. I mean, once people say, well, there is a problem, what are you going to do about it? That's what the major just said. And so, Major, personal accounts, any feel for that at all?
The thrift savings plans were opened up to the military just a couple years ago.
You're in one?
I am in one. I participate. And what it is it's a safe investment. And it allows me to take a portion of the income I'm earning and put it away to save it for the future. And I'm happy with that, and I like the idea of sharing that with the American public and not just limiting it to federal employees.
See, she's in a thrift savings plan, very similar. In other words, we're not inventing something new. What's new is that it'd be associated with a retirement through Social Security. It's not new. It's already being used. It's a plan that has federal employees are able to take advantage of. The way we propose the plan is that you could put $1,000 up to 4% of your income, which is ever less, in your account, and over time the 1,000 grows. Is that right? Up to 1,000 to 4%, which is ever less. Yeah, I think that's right. Better be right. So in other words, if you're making $90,000, you eventually be able to put $3,600 a year away in a personal account, but it starts at 1,000 and phases in over time in order to make sure that the sound is fiscally responsible. So I don't want to know your income, but you could start with 1,000, and over time it grows. And as interest compounds, Tricia and her husband would have a nice nest egg to complement that which will be coming out of Social Security. Is that the way you see it?
Yes.
That's the way it's going to be. If only we can get Congress to vote it in. Good job. All right, Paul. Paul Thomas.
Yes, Mr. President.
Where are you from?
I'm from Velva, North Dakota, which is very close to Carlsruhe, North Dakota.
That's good. I was just thinking the same thing myself. What do you do?
I, just this past March, my wife Karen of 5.5 years and my son Jonathan 4 and Michael 2 returned to our family farm and took over that. We're the 4th generation of Thomases to farm that.
Fabulous. Sounds like a North Dakota tradition to me. One thing before we get in, I've got another issue I want to drop out there. In order to make sure that Paul and future Pauls are able to stay on the farm, we need to get rid of the death tax. Once and for all. It's being phased out. It's being phased out, but it pops back up in 2011. It's going to make for some very interesting estate planning in 2010, if you get my drift. Like you think it's gone and then it comes back. Anyway, we'll worry about that at another time.
Well, Mr. President, one of the things that really concerns me about the Social Security system is, you know, we're planning for our future, my wife and I's future, and our future retirement, and also our son's future. And in that mix, we're also trying to plan on how we're going to position our business to pass on to the 5th generation. And with some of the plans we're able to use, whether it's an insurance or a private investment, we're able to control that money and direct that money and see what's happening there and feel relatively comfortable about what's going to be there down the road, whether it's tomorrow or 20 years from now. And I just, through all my years, I have always felt and seen signs from Congress and everything that with Social Security, we can't trust that that's going to be there when I retire, and certainly when my sons retire, if we don't make a change to the system. And that is why I'm so supportive of your efforts to change our Social Security system.
Yeah, well, thank you, Paul. Look, here's an interesting, isn't it interesting? I wonder if 30 years ago we'd been having the same conversation. I don't think so. A lot has changed. I mean, there's a lot more awareness among younger Americans about what it means to manage your own retirement account. After all, it's happening more and more in our society. 401ks, I mean, it's become a part of how people think. You've just heard from two younger Americans who are now saying, give me a chance to manage my own money. I feel more secure if I can see that money. In other words, if you own it. I strongly believe in an ownership society. I want more people owning their home, owning their own business, owning and managing their own health care account, and owning and managing their retirement accounts. I think it makes America a better place. What do you farm?
We produce a number of crops, principally wheat, sunflowers, peas and lentils, canola, barley, quite a few.
Sure do, yeah. Selling them overseas?
Well, they eventually make it over there. We have, in our farm, we had also diversified into some specific IP crops that went to specific customers where we were able to get some better prices.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I need to do over the next 4 years is to continue to open up markets. The reason why is North Dakota farmers are real good at what they do. And therefore, if you're good at what you do, you ought to have as many markets available for your product as possible. And so I appreciate you doing that. And same for cattlemen too, by the way. We want our beef going all over the world. It's great beef here in America, and people ought to be eating it. A lot of them. Today, I hope you get a sense of, one, there is a problem. If you're an older American, you have no problem. You're in good shape. You don't even look older to me. Two, if you're a young person, demand that Congress at least address the issue head on and not pass it down. Secondly, there are some interesting solutions on the table. All of them are on the table as far as I'm concerned. People have put forth interesting ideas, and I just want the good people in North Dakota to listen. It doesn't matter to me whether it's a Democrat idea, Republican idea. If it's a good idea to make this system work, I'll listen and work with them. I'll work with people who... And also hope you can tell I'm willing to put out some ideas of my own. I believe part of the role of a leader is to say, well, you know, there is a problem, and by the way, here's some ideas that make it work. And I also want you to know that I'm going to travel our country, speaking as plainly as I can about a problem that I see. And expecting, because I truly believe that the American people can help decide an issue in the halls of Congress. It's what a democracy does. When the people speak, the elected officials listen. That's what you're going to find out in Iraq, by the way. That's why ultimately democratic societies are peaceful societies, because most people want peace. Moms and dads from all cultures want to raise their child in a peaceful environment. Moms and dads of all cultures believe in a child's education and believe in compassion and don't want war for their children. And so representative government is one that responds to the people, and I believe when the people speak clearly on this issue, when they recognize there's a problem, they're going to say to the Congress, we expect a solution to make sure that younger Americans have got a retirement system that is viable in the years to come. And so you're witnessing step one of what's going to be a series of trips around our great land. I kind of want to tell you something, though. Getting out of Washington is healthy, and getting out amongst the people is invigorating, and I want to thank you for coming out to say hello. May God bless you all.